Shalom, Shabbat Shalom,
Hey,
Shabbat Shalom,
hey,
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Red is the sky where the sun comes to rest, to welcome Sabbath Eve. Shadows cover the long mountain crest, to welcome Sabbath Eve. And I wait for the stillness in me, and I wait to be open and free. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Menucha v'simcha hayom. And I wait for the stillness in me, and I wait to be open and free. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Venucha v'simcha hayom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Venucha v'simcha hayom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are small and mighty tonight. Small and mighty, which means everyone's got to really participate, okay? Actually, we're small enough, and the weather's nice enough. Should we just move this outside? No, not really. Yes. So Shabbat Shalom to folks who are in person and folks who are online. I hope everybody is doing well and enjoying this time of year. A couple things as we get started. Under your chair is your blue Mishkan tefillah. And if you take those out, you'll see, of course, that as usual, this is a highly participatory service. And we'll have all sorts of opportunities for folks to pray with us responsively or in English readings. And of course, the Hebrew works just fine as well. If you take a look around you, you'll see where the exits are. Right back there, exit signs on that side, and behind me in case we need to leave quickly. If you would turn off your cell phones and still your smartphones and all that good stuff, just so that you don't get a call in the middle of the service. Okay, so soloist Jessica Tillum and I'm Spike Anderson, and if everyone would take a moment or two or three, turn to the people around you, even if you have to get up and look behind you and just say, hi, shake a hand, fist bump. Hi, my name is Shabbat Shalom. Really, let's take a full minute or two to greet each other. Red as the sky. Red as the sky.
And I wait for the stillness in me, and I wait to be open and free. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Menucha v'simcha.
find our feet on the floor as we enter into this space and this place. We'll be ready to take 3 deep breaths together. Feel yourself get centered. Nice deep breath in together. Let it out. The next breath connects us with Jews bringing in Shabbat all over the world. Deep breath in. Let it out. And the third breath connects us with all life. Deep breath in. Let it out. Okay, if your eyes are closed, you can flutter them open. We rise for page 120 for our candle lighting. Dana, would you come on up with the 2 on either side of you, and you guys are going to do some candle lighting. Come on up. Come on up. And so we Jews have been bringing light into the darkness, and of course, this time of year is amongst the darkest of the days of the year. We've been bringing light into the darkness since time began as we know it. Symbolically, each Shabbat we remind ourselves of this, the grand Jewish mission to bring light into the world, every Jewish generation to bring light into the world, and the mission of every single Jew. That is part of our reason for being here, to bring light into the world. And so for Shabbat, we remind ourselves that with this, with ritual. So if you'll each take that center candle and light one of them. Yep, take the candle and then you can light one. There you go. And then Dana, if you'll light the other. And together we bring in the light and the warmth and all this delicious Shabbat love, getting ready for our blessing 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu bo mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. If you'd like to light your own Shabbat candles, come on up and do it as we pray Shalom Aleichem, page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem Shalom,
Malachei Shalom,
Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Please be seated. On page 138, you've got Lecha Dodi, and we're getting ready to pray that. Lecha Dodi was composed in the northern part of Israel, and I was, of course, reminded when Stacy walked in. Stacy and I are going to be chaperoning 29 post-confirmation kids from Temple Emanu-El to Israel this June. So Stacy and I and 29 teenagers. We're going to have a great, great time, and this is the Schiffer family post-confirmation trip, and I'm so thrilled that Ed Schiffer has decided to endow this in perpetuity here at Temple Emanu-El. It's a really big deal for this community and all of our communities. Lecha Dodi, we pine for this completeness that Jewish people have, the Jewish soul has on Shabbat, like a groom awaiting the bride. And we think about it, we pine for it, and when we feel it, when we're in it, we feel ourselves not just with shalom, but shalem, wholeness, completeness, and peace. 138, Lachadodi.
Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'litchila. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, ki mekor habracha, lerosh mekidem lesucha, sof ma'aseh b'ma'aseh b'techila. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Hitorari, ki ba'orechu bi'ori, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai alachik nikba.
Here we go.
Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela.
We rise and face the door.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam v'simcha u'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi kala, Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela.
Please be seated. Our Torah portion is Vayigash, which is towards the end of the Genesis narrative, and it's the end of the Joseph narrative. We all know the story of Joseph, and we'll recount parts of it this evening. When Joseph has already gone through the 7 years of famine and the 7 years of plenty. The day has been saved, so to speak. And now his father, Jacob, who's been brought from Canaan to Egypt, is on his deathbed. And Jacob begins to call in his sons to give them blessings. And there's a particular scene which I really, really love, where Jacob calls in Joseph for Joseph's blessing. Now, Joseph is returned as not just the prodigal son, but the favorite son. And Joseph, instead of taking his father's blessing, brings his own 2 sons with him. So Jacob's grandsons, whose names are Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh. So as the story goes, I'm going to Draz, I'm going to riff it a little bit, not giving you the exact words, but the boys come in, and they don't look Jewish. They don't look Jewish. In part because Joseph married an Egyptian woman, the daughter of the high priest of the ancient Egyptian religion. She had the unfortunate name of, anybody remember? Osnat is her name, a very unfortunate name. Her name was Osnat. But here's the deal, that the two kids, Joseph and Osnat's kids, they look like mom. They had been brought up in the palace, not in, sort of the Jewish neighborhoods. So they dressed Egyptian, they spoke Egyptian, not ancient Hebrew. They had Egyptian mannerisms, right? Probably her coloring. And Grandpa sees these two kids come in, and he says to them, Emanu-El, who are these guys? Now, according to the Midrash, this is not in Torah, according to the Midrash, all right, the story between the stories, the boys go up to their grandpa when he says, Emanu-El, who are these guys? I don't even recognize them, right? And they say, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. That's the Sibboleth. That's the code, like, hey, we're part of this. Grandpa, we may not look like you, we may not talk like you, but we are the Jewish future, right? Now, why am I telling you this? Jewish families traditionally on Friday night bless their children and grandchildren, okay, with the priestly benediction, right? That's the Yivarecha Adonai V'yishmerecha. And we bless our children and our grandchildren under the names of the four mothers, okay, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. But for the boys, under Ephraim and Manasseh. And so the rabbis say, why are we giving this priestly benediction with these two very minor characters, Ephraim and Manasseh, right? They don't even make our ark, right? They're half tribes later, right? So why in the name of these very minor characters are we giving this very important blessing every Friday night? And of course, because we're Jewish, there's so many answers and they're all good, right? But the one that I some say, okay, because it shows the eternal Jewish spirit, the Ner Tamid, that's going to morph with every land that Jews are in, that we're not going to look like the generation before us or the generation before us, that we're all going to keep on morphing, but it's the spirit and the worldview and the Torah that we have, that's what's important, so that's why we do Ephraim and Manasseh, right? And if all the answers, and there's many, I'm not going to go through them all tonight, but if the ones that I've heard, the ones that I like the most, the one I like the most is the reason we bless under Ephraim and Manasseh, because these are the first two brothers in Torah to get along. If you look at the family history, it is hugely dysfunctional, okay? You have, Isaac and Ishmael, okay? Jacob and Esau. This is not a good track record, right? Now, the forgiveness that eventually Joseph gives to his brothers, maybe because he saw his uncle Esau forgive his father, Jacob, in an earlier narrative. But here we bless our children and our grandchildren on a Friday night because that's what we want. We want our kids and our grandkids and the next generation to get along, and not just when we're present, when we're not present, and ... long after we're gone. That's the blessing. So I'd like you all to stand, please. You came this Friday night, and so you get a special treat. Okay, we're going to bless you with a priestly benediction. And if you are next to someone where you don't mind putting a hand on his or her shoulder, if you have kids here, put your hands on your kids. If you have grown kids here, put your hands on them. Okay? All right, Jess, ready?
Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yaher Adonai pano v'lecha v'yichoneka.
May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yis Adonai pano v'lecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's face turn towards you and grant you the greatest gift of all, the gift of peace. And we say,
Amen.
are we warmed up? Yes. Baruch Hu on page 146.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai. Hamevorach. Hamevorach. Leolam vaed. Hamevorach. Hamevorach. Leolam vaed.
As the stars are in the sky, the moon continues to rise, back inside cover for roll into dark.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day,
Day turns to night.
Roll into dark, roll into light.
Night becomes day. Day turns to night.
Boreom v'layla, Golelor mipnei choshen, Golelor mipnei choshen, v'choshen mipnei or.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Page 152, Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam vaed.
Please be seated. If you'll join me on page 155, this is a poetic version of V'ahavta, the second part of the Shema, talking about our aspirational focus points, spiritually, religiously, communally. Together, love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you're tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them from the forefront in your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom alevavecha Vishinantam Livanecha, Vidivarta Bam, Vishivtecha, Vivetecha, Ulachtecha Vaderech, Ushachbecha, Uvakumecha, Ushartam Leot Ayadecha, Vihayila Totafot Benenecha, Uvtavtam, Amizazot Betecha, Uvisharecha, Liman Tiskeru, Vasitem Ekol Mitzvotai, Vitem Kiddushim Leelohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Liot Lachem Leelohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Lechem Emet. On page 159, the top of the page together. Sing the song of men and women, join in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. 158, Micha Mocha.
Adonai, Micha Mocha Neder Bakodesh, Nora Tehilo Rosei Vele, Nora Tehilo Rosei Vele. Malachutecha Uvanecha, Bokei Hayom Lifnei Moshe, Zeili Anu V'yameru, Zeili Anu V'yameru.
Adonai Imloch Leolam Vaed, Adonai Imloch Leolam Vaed. Vayishgash, the Joseph story, takes place with the big reveal. If we were in Hollywood, this would be the big reveal when the audience, the readership knows what's going on, but the characters in there don't know. Remember the Joseph story? Joseph is the second youngest of 12 brothers. He has dreams from a young age, which his brothers look at as delusions of grandeur, that they're all going to be bowing down to him, including mom and dad. And big brothers don't usually have a whole lot of sense of humor about this type of thing. Right? Little brothers who are saying, someday you're going to bow down to me and work for me and I'm going to be in charge. And it all sounds like fun and games until one day the brothers are out with the sheep in the field far away, and Joseph, who's been kept at home wearing his colorful coat, which was the sign, scholars think, of a scribe. Joseph knew how to read and write. He was literate, and the brothers were the ones, keeping the sheep in the field. So Dad had sent Joseph to go check on them. Go check on your brothers, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. This is already sounding bad. All right, so he goes, and eventually he finds his brothers, and the brothers, as they see him coming, say, here comes that dreamer. All right, let's do some stuff to him and profit from it. And when he comes close, they beat the tar out of him, and they throw him into a pit. Now this is, a deep enough pit that he can't get out. It's also, of course, in the desert, and we know what lives in deep pits in the desert, so it's very dangerous. It was not just a holding pen, right? That could have been the end of him. The pit in Hebrew is called a bore. A bore is a pit, a hole in the desert. And Joseph's life from that point on consists of going from one pit to the next, one hole to the next, He's thrown down into that hole, and then his brothers sell him into slavery, right? That's not something most people recover from. Egyptian slavery. He gets there and is bought by Potiphar, a merchant, and rises to the top, but then there's the accusation by Potiphar's wife that Joseph has tried to seduce her. I'm just watching my language because there's kids here. Okay? So Potiphar throws him into prison. So now Joseph, the slave in another country, has been thrown into prison. And now there's no chance he's coming back from this, from one pit to the next pit to the next pit. But of course, we know the story with the dreams, the cows and the sheaves of wheat. Pharaoh hears having these dreams, hears Joseph's abilities to interpret dreams from other people that he served time with in prison. Joseph gets brought up, becomes a grand vizier, and essentially the second most powerful man in Egypt. Meanwhile, there's famine in Canaan. So the brothers have made a trip or two, I'm fast forwarding, have made a trip or two from Canaan to Egypt to get food. And Joseph is playing some games with them. Why? According to our sages, he's seen if the brothers have changed. If they're put in the exact same situation, are they going to watch out for their vulnerable brother, in this case Benjamin, who comes, the youngest brother? Or are they going to do the same thing and sell Benjamin out and watch out for themselves? The brothers do the right thing, and Joseph, seeing his brothers, can't contain himself anymore. The brothers don't recognize him, one, because they're looking down at the ground. They never dare look him in the eye. He's the grand vizier. They're there for food. Joseph knows who they are. They don't know who he is. And then you have the big reveal. Joseph has them stand up, sends the servants away, and in a choking voice with a cry so loud that Torah says it could be heard all through the palace in Egypt, he declares that I am your lost brother Joseph. It's a very emotional moment. And the brothers start to say, we are so sorry that this happened. And Joseph says, and this is an important line, Joseph says, Lo atem shalchem oti hine ha kol ha Elohim. You did not do this to me, but God did, so that I could save you. Be here to save Egypt. Be here to save the family, to bring the family up. In other words, Joseph is putting forth a theology that all the bad stuff that had happened to him, and you can see in any one of those moments, being beaten up by his brothers and thrown in the pit, he probably could not see that any good was going to come of this. Sold into slavery, no good is going to come of this. Thrown into prison, right? But at the end of the day, Joseph looks back and he says, all of this was done not by you, brothers, but God put me in this position so I could be here. Now, it's a problematic theology that comes from this, right? It's a theology that everything happens for a reason, right? And not just a reason, a divine reason. Now, I'll tell you a personal story that illustrates some of this and then the problem that comes with it, right? So Maccabees 16, so 12 years ago, he was 4, and I was working in Los Angeles at Stephen S. Wise Temple. And Stephen S. Wise Temple in Los Angeles is a huge temple, and one of the things that they have is a swimming pool. Okay, it's part of the synagogue. There's a swimming pool. It's known as the shul with the pool. Okay? Beautiful outdoor pool. If anybody would like to bring that to Temple Emanu-El, we'll take it. And I used to swim sometimes at my lunch break there. There'd be nobody in the pool. So Mac, who's my eldest, Marita and I are our eldest, he's 3 or 4 years old, and he's getting his swimming lessons after school. And every Wednesday, let's just call it Wednesday, he would go down, and the teachers would bring him, and there'd be a couple of teachers who were giving the kids swim lessons down there. And this one particular day, one particular Wednesday, I had a meeting with somebody who just didn't show up. Happens once in a while. Usually it's not a big deal. I mean, we don't like it, but it's not a big deal. And I looked at the clock when it happened. I'm like, you know what? I think Mac's in his swim lesson right now. I'm gonna go down there and watch him. Why not? Right? My son, he's learning how to swim. It's exciting. So I go down to the pool, and it's set up like this. You've got this big pool, and you've got a bunch of parents sort of on the bleachers, mostly moms, all chatting with each other. And you've got the main swim teacher right in the middle of the narrow side of the pool with a teenager on one side and a teenager on the other in the water. And the way it would work is they'd call the first kid, and the kid would, do one of these to the teenager, who'd take the kid and go like this, and then the kid would go to the next person and the next person, and there was sort of a chain going on. And I was standing behind the fence just watching. I didn't want Mac to see me. And I watched him go from the side to the first teenager, from the teenager to the teacher, from the teacher towards the next one, but something was going on with that last teenager. There was a situation in the water, and I watched from the side as Maccabee went under. Okay, there's a lot of people there. All right, he pops up. I see him. He says, "Help." Nobody can hear because there's chaos. I'm watching. All right, goes down again. I'm waiting for someone to see him. He's down there now for a second or two, more than that, enough that I start moving towards it. Comes up, "Help," and he goes down for a third time, and when he doesn't come up after about 3 seconds, I run out there and, "Hey, he's in the pool," and pull him out, and okay. So he's very upset. He's been under the water way longer than he wanted to, and I'm sure that, 15, 20 seconds later, somebody would have seen him. You have to just trust me, there was a lot of chaos going on. 15 or 20 seconds for a kid under the water, that's a long time, right? That could cause some damage. Up here, could cause some damage. So I got it in my head, and I'm not sure I'm wrong, that, here I am at the place where my son is having swim lessons. That's where I work. And I happen to have a meeting canceled at the very time when he's having a swim lesson, and I decide to go down there the one time that he needs me, and he goes under. And that's got to be divine intervention, right? That was my thinking, and I'm not sure that it's wrong, right? Somehow God was a part of this equation. So later that year, I'm teaching in one of the neighborhoods, and the way we used to do it in Los Angeles, because everybody's so spread out, there's no way everybody's coming to the synagogue for a class. They're just too spread out. So we would have classes at different people's houses, 6 weeks in a row in this neighborhood at this house, and the neighborhood would come to a house. So I'm teaching something about theology at somebody's house, and I'm telling this story to demonstrate a point, and they say to me in the middle of the class of 40 people in their living room type thing, "Rabbi, our son drowned." No, I didn't know that. Where? And they asked the right question. Where was God when our son drowned? Right? Where? Why weren't we there? So that's the friction that comes from this type of theology, right? Bad things do happen to good people, right? Bad things happen to bad people. Good things happen to bad people. There seems to be an element of randomness to it. So you've got Joseph in Vayigash saying, all of the bad things that happened to me, which are horrible, happened for a reason so I could do all these good things. And from this comes a theology, not the theology in Judaism, but a theology that essentially there is no randomness, right? That everything comes from a particular theological perspective, from a deity. You've got stories like mine and my son, where I can't believe it was just an amazing coincidence that I happened to be there at the exact moment that he needed me, right? And yet, here's this other family. I have to assume no better or worse than me. It's not a question of deserving or anything like that. And they lost their son. So how do you reconcile these? And I will tell you, one of the things I love about Judaism is it doesn't give us patronizing answers. Okay, there are some religions that do. They will give you the ribbon on the present, the punchline at the end of the half-hour sitcom. And what Judaism does is it respects us enough to not give us a pat answer for a very complex and maybe impossible theological question. It helps us ask the question. It helps us wrestle with the question, right? But it doesn't say, God needed another angel, right? Or it was just his time. I mean, you can think that for sure, but the theology doesn't support it. So I will tell you that this time of year, things can get very difficult in a congregation. There are lots of ups and there are lots of downs. And as a rabbi, there are certain times a year where I know that multiple times a day I'm going to be interacting with people at their best and at their most vulnerable. And sometimes it feels like there's a seesaw. And the only thing I can bring to this conversation of these two stories and Jacob's or Joseph's proclamation that everything happens for a reason is that stories like these and times of years like this, and probably things that are happening in our lives, do cause us, as cliche as it sounds, to truly take stock of the time that we have, right? Whether it be a week or a month or a year, or may we all live to be 120 with vim and vigor, to take stock, to appreciate the people who are in our lives, who we love, right? Without any stamp or ribbon or anything like that at the end of that. That may be all we get out of this. Right? Sometimes it feels like there's an intervention. Sometimes it feels like it is so brutally casual, the world and life and what can happen to one and not to another. But if we take this lesson, right, that people around us love us, we love them, we don't take the time that we have for granted, we don't take the relationships in our lives for granted and really make the most of them, that perhaps is all that we can do and get from this type of scenario. So, with that, Hashkivenu is on page 160. And Hashkivenu is the prayer that we Jews say on Shabbat that's almost the opposite of the happy clappy, isn't it all wonderful? This is the prayer that says, life can be tough and not fair and dangerous and scary. And what we ask for in this prayer is God's Sukkot Shalom. Okay, so Sukkot like a sukkah, right? God's embodiment of peace and protection to be upon us, our family, our people, all Israel, right? And those around us. Page 160, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmoit Seitenu Uvoenu L'chaim u'shalom Yatavei Adolam.
Here we go. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim
v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim.
163 on the top, we pray together. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Vashamru 162.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורות הברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות הברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו
Doratam Berit Olam.
Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashemayim v'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם.
We rise for our Amidah 164 as an intention as we move into our central prayer. Join me on 165 at the top in the English. Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild the ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. 164.
Adonai
Sifatai titafu fi agita ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Gula livnei b'neihem, Leman Shemo v'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rab laHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach u'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim b'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, U'mido melech, Melech meimit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yalucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue our Amidah silently, either with the words of your Siddur or the words of your heart. When you feel your prayer is complete, feel free to have a seat.
tasim leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
One of my favorite things about this community and the minhag, the custom here, is what we like to call the Shehechianu moments, where as a community we do a little sharing, sharing simchas in your life. So something really good or great or amazing that just happened to you, is about to happen, is in the midst of happening. It can be something big, it can be something small that's also big. So the tradition is you share your name, like my name's Spike Anderson, and my simcha, my shehechianu moment is that my aunt, my father's sister, just yesterday moved into our house, and this is a really good thing. We've been working towards this for almost a year, and tonight when we had Shabbat dinner, a quick Shabbat dinner at the Anderson home, which is indigestion for dessert, I promise, but before that we said shehechianu as part of it, and we cried, because we've been working very hard to get her there, and we're really excited. So if anybody, Robert, you want to take the mic? If anybody would like to share something great that's happening, a simcha, share your name.
I'm Sandy Furco, and I'm going to do this without crying. Happy tears. My friends know that for the last couple months, my baby sister has been fighting a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. And she's had a lot of bumps in the road with very difficult chemo, and chemo interacting with other meds. It's been difficult. Yesterday, my brother-in-law texted all of us and said, we're going to Zoom in 5 minutes. And I said, oh, God, what now? And she got on, she's talking normally, her brain's working again, and she said, I love you all, and I'm in remission.
Wow.
And she's got a long way to go because she has to have a bone marrow transplant. But
thanks for sharing that.
it was, I came to the services tonight to thank God in person.
Yeah. That's great.
My dog Maui, he ate a sock and he had to be in the hospital for a few days and he had to get surgery, and I'm just glad he's okay.
Okay, so the dog's okay, and you're down a sock. All right, Leah. 3. Still down a sock.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rich Lappin, and we were pleased to have our older daughter visiting with us from out of town. And it got extended a day, more or less because Southwest had some problems getting her back. But we were glad that she was with us, and it was a good visit.
That's great. I'm so glad for you.
I'm Harriet Zoller, and day before yesterday, I celebrated my last of the 70 birthdays.
Oh, happy birthday, Harriet. Others. Tell us who you are. Tell us your name.
Okay, we're Dana Niger and
Deegan.
And we wanted to share that today is Daddy's 40th birthday.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday.
Beautiful.
Right, and I'll share that our son Eric started a new job this week, and we are very, very happy about that.
Okay, mazel tov on the job. I think we got a couple right up there, Robert.
Coming.
My name is Jocelyn Hathaway, and yesterday I got my ears pierced.
Hey, that's great, Jocelyn.
Bill? You got voluntold.
Yes, Bill Sekenick, and I fully retired the end of this month here.
Great, Bill. Congratulations.
47-year career.
Congratulations.
Robert, get him quick before he gets snatched up. All right, so what we Jews do, Jess, anything to share?
Well, yeah, today's a bit of a milestone birthday for my mom, who I think probably has one eye on the live stream and one eye on the baby monitor to allow me to be here. So, love you, Mom.
Happy birthday, happy birthday. So when we Jews are in the midst of a particular type of time, sacred time, we acknowledge it with our Shehechianu, thanking God that we're here, that we're interacting and breathing, and may we have this type of engagement, this type of moment, again and again and again. Page 648 for Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
From the Torah portion this week, one of the things that Judah the brother says to Jacob the father, bless you, when he's trying to promise him he's going to take care of Benjamin and bring him to Egypt, he says, I'm going to be a guarantor for him. I promise his safety. And the line from Torah is, Kol ha'aravim zeh comes down through tradition is, Jews will watch out for each other and be there for each other. And as we move into Misha Barak, I want to share a quick story that was shared with me today. One of our congregants and dear friend, they were husband and wife, were out of town in another city to get a very special and complicated surgery. And they were in the hospital in this particular city for almost 2 weeks without family or friends there with them. They were being checked in on a lot, but really, very lonely. And they shared that a couple times a week there was a group of Jewish women who were elderly in their years who would come to all of the Jewish rooms and offer cheer and prayer and conversation. And they said that the impact was profound to have somebody coming and checking on them when they felt alone, and that these people were not just good people, Daenu, but Jews. There was a connection that was automatically shared in those moments in that hospital that they appreciated very much and that I found profound. Misha Barak is the prayer that we say when we're asking for a healing of mind, of body, of soul, of relationship. The congregation asks for a refuah shlema, a complete healing speedily to Brenda Grazier, Chaim Ben Sarah, Aaron Goldberg, Elaine Schlichel, Marvin Davis, Jerry Penn, Rick Shapiro, Cindy Hirsch, Mayor Ben Rachmael Vendina, Alvin Levy, Kashka Miskoji, George Richfeld, Francis Levine, Millie Dubrow, Harvey Apple, Ken Schiffer, Karnina Michal Bat Yitzchak Vatova, Jennifer Herman, Neil Schwartz, Rosa Zaretsky, Michael Merdinger, Vincenzo Restituto, Isabella Dofershad, Yehudit Bat Yocheved, Aharon Ben Batya, Mary Rosenblum, Diana Burkholder, Bob Steinke, Mitchell Friedberg, Teresa Sloan, Jeffrey Wolkowski, Lori Garrett, Hank Levine, Carol Stoff, Charles Riddick, Kathy Moyle. If you have somebody in your life that you would like to say Misha Barak for, and it could be for you yourself, please say their name either out loud or when my eyes meet yours. Thank you. 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 Okay, the Minhag Makom is that we stand. And if you're comfortable putting your arm or arms around the people around you, please do so. If you are by yourself, feel my arms around you. Page 371 if you want to follow along.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Please remain standing for Kiddush, page 123. And if you are under 14 and have not yet had your bar and bat mitzvah, come on up here. Will you take a little of the grape juice? There we go. Another 2 weeks, and then, all right, 3 weeks. Okay. And friends, we are going to raise our by this community, sanctify the Shabbat, sanctify the day.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinkilanu, Zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikrei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu.
Put your glasses up.
Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-shabbat.
Amen. L'chaim the bracha, to life with blessings. Okay, you can put the empty cups down here. Jocelyn, will you lead the group up to the ark? And we're going to open the ark. Elena can be found on page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latei gedula yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam tzlokenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamona.
And we bow.
V'anachnu korim, u'vishtachavim u'modim, Rifnei melech, malchei hamachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar v'haya
Adonai echad. Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo echad. And we close the ark. Okay, and we can be seated. In a moment, we move into our final lap with the Mourner's Kaddish, which you'll find on page 598. Mourner's Kaddish is where we invoke the names of those who have died at this season past. And in doing so, traditionally, there's a theology that by saying their names at a particular time, they have what's called an aliyat hanefesh, an ascent of soul. And whether we choose to believe that or not, clearly saying somebody who we have loved, who has passed at this particular time, we're flooded by sacred memory. Aliyat hanefesh, an ascent of soul, flooded by sacred memory. And the two are not mutually exclusive. We can have both at the same time. In Shloshim, the families of Edward Schneider, Neil Andelman, Zurishada Yisrael, Michael Efron, Bernard Greenstein, Sharon Strickler. Yard sites for Herman Barnett, Dora Berger, Hyman Berman, Herman Boaz, David Brainin, Lois Burkle, Irving Cohen, Irene Dubin, Alvin Dubin, Rose Gilmer, Abe Gilmer, Katie Grief, Carrie Held, Mildred Holtzman, David Horowitz, Rosalie Jaslow, Tom Kaiser, Gene Kaplan, Chuck Karst, Milton Katz, Robert Lauter, Jack Leff, Rita Levine, Isaac Matelski, Barbara Mencher, Marlene Mendel, Oscar Miller, Martha Miller, Max Mincer, Virginia Morris, Josephine Needle, Sarah Neeson, T. David Odreason, Jean Rosner, Benjamin Samsky, Theresa Schwartz, Elizabeth Sherman, Julia Stillman, Pat Stolmack, Charles Stone, Michael Tuckman, Alice Wexler, Beaky Willen. If you are in the Shloshim period of mourning, the first 30 days of mourning a loved one's passing, we ask you to rise now and be recognized. Please remain standing. If you're in the first year of mourning a loved one's passing, we ask you to rise now and be recognized. If you are commemorating the yard site, the death anniversary of a loved one's passing, we ask you to rise now and be recognized. And if it is your custom to stand either in solidarity or for the 6 million who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we rise now. Page 598. Together, Yit Gadal, Vayit Kadash, Shmei Rabal, Be'alma Divrach Hirotei, Be'amlich Malchutei, Be'chayechon, Yomechon, Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagalav Izman Kari Vimru Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Olomei Almaya, Yit Baraf, V'yishtabaf, V'yit Pa'ar, V'yit Roman, V'yit Naseh, Vita dar, vita la shmei de kutsha, brichu, la ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'charta v'nechamarta, damim ram v'yama v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imru mav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
Say shalom b'mroma,
Uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu. Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu
shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.